Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode of New Music Weekly, the show where I give you guys the top 5 prog news headlines for the week, introduce you guys to some new prog singles, and give you all the updates on what's happening here on Nathan on Shuffle. So today it's June 12th, 2026, and I'm excited to dive into the news. This is covering the last 2 weeks. I've been doing this every 2 weeks rather than weekly just because it works better with my schedule and it helps build up a lot of cool news items to have a lot to talk about with you. So let's get into the new releases that have come out in the last couple weeks. The notable ones for me, Evergrey came out with their record Architects of a New Weave on June 5th. This is Prog Metal. Never been my top favorite band, but I know they're very notable in the prog metal space, and a lot of people love them, so I wanted to mention it. Ayreon came out with their live album, 30th Anniversary, An Amazing Flight Through Time. Ayreon's one of my favorite projects. This came out June 5th. A whole cast of different notable metal and prog singers coming together on stage to perform some of the greatest hits from Arjen Lucason's big catalog as the Ayreon Project, big sci-fi concept records and music. So definitely check that out if you haven't seen that or heard that yet. There's plenty of YouTube clips from that release. It's available as a CD, but also as a DVD and Blu-ray package, I believe, as well. Slift came out with their album Fantasia on June 5th as well. I've had some people recommend this to me. Very doomy and kind of heavy stoner rock kind of stuff, but really well done, really expertly crafted. A really interesting one to check out if you're interested in that kind of music. A little bit on the heavier end for me. I'm not a big fan of the vocals where it's very kind of, it's not necessarily like death metal growls, but kind of, harsher vocals in a sense, kind of screaming vocals. But the music behind it is really stellar, so I'm trying to learn to adapt to their style of vocals, but a very good one. This week had a couple of really excellent releases. Yes's Aurora. Everyone should be familiar with Yes, who watches my channel, one of the biggest classic prog bands. I did a review of this record. I think it's a really solid new era Yes record with their current lineup. I think it probably edges out Mirror to the Sky just slightly as a slightly better package, better album. But they're very close. I really liked Mirror to the Sky as well. But just really great modern symphonic prog. And they're kind of stepping out a little bit, doing things a little bit experimental. And I think it's really working for them. I really love the new record from OK Goodnight called Stop Go. This is prog metal, female-fronted, excellent, quirky, kind of modern edge, alternative. I really love this. I think it's really experimental and interesting and really fun to listen to. I'll be talking about it. I'm not sure if I'm going to save it for like my June roundup of reviews or if I'm going to do a separate review of it. I haven't quite decided. But it's excellent nonetheless. And another excellent record is Artificial Silence and their album Hollow Drift, another prog metal work here. But prog metal in a sense of, it's very accessible to me, has these really lush kind of vocal harmonies throughout, some piano-based music throughout, so it's not so heavy guitar driven all the time. And they have an epic at the end of this record that's just mind-blowingly amazing. So another one that I may talk about in the coming weeks ahead, but if not, check it out. It's a must listen for this week. I really love what they're doing. It's really unique and really interesting. So I'll put a list of all these records that I'm talking about in the description so that you can copy and paste and search these albums out if you want to. Most of them should be available anywhere you want to search for them, on a streaming service, on Bandcamp, on any kind of music distributor. Hopefully you'll find these records because they're worth your time. All right, into the prog news items proper. I think the first item that I have to talk about that's kind of the big buzz in the prog and rock worlds is Rush and their launching of their 50-something tour in LA. People were excited about this, wondering what the set list would be and how it would sound and, everything. They played at the Kia Forum in LA, pretty close to me actually, but I wasn't able to attend. Just ticket prices are just kind of through the roof and I just didn't have the ability to go for that. But I've been watching a lot of the YouTube clips and hearing about it and people's experiences, and it seems like everyone's pretty excited and amped and really loves the set list that they put together and the energy the band has, and that they're back, kind of returning to form, so to speak. It's notable because it's their first true, concert gigs with Anika Niles on drums, replacing, of course, Neil Peart, who passed away, unfortunately. And I shouldn't say replacing, of course, he's irreplaceable. And a lot of the show, I think, is kind of a dedication to Neil Peart and his legacy. But she's stepping in very well and doing an incredible job from all the video evidence that I've seen. And they're varying their set from night to night slightly. I've heard rumblings. I saw the first night set. I won't delve too far deep into spoilers, but if you're really not wanting to know the songs that they're playing on these shows, you might want to skip ahead from this part. But, a really solid selection of their greatest songs from their career. A lot of cool stuff from like their proggy period. They start with Xanadu. They played La Via Strangiato on that first concert. They played quite a bit of 2112. And I hear on the second night they played the entire 2112 epic rather than just selections from it like they did on the first night. And I've heard they played the entire Moving Pictures on one of their tour dates as well. So they're really playing a lot of cool material. They also played Natural Science is in the mix here, YYZ, Bytor and the Snow Dog, all this kind of cool classic Rush stuff that I'm sure everyone's really excited to hear. So it seems like their tour is a wild success and will continue into the future. Alex Lifeson and Geddy Lee, of course, are the duo here. Coming back in just excellent style. A lot of people were wondering about Geddy Lee's voice and how that would hold up since, he's getting older in years and his voice isn't quite what it used to be in his younger days. But it sounds like it's really holding up and doing very well. So all great reports of what's going on there. So please check it out if you haven't yet. It's definitely something, a spectacle worth going to, like kind of a once in a lifetime experience that's making a lot of grown men cry out there, as I've heard. Item number 2, this just was made public to me today. Jethro Tull announced J-Tull.com, another cast of the net, with the new remakes by Bruce Soord. This is a release from Jethro Tull and Inside Out Music. Coming out August 14th, 2026. This is the 1999 album. Kind of interesting that they're kind of leapfrogging a couple other albums because they just did the Under Wraps big box set with, the new mixes and all that kind of stuff. They're moving forward with J-Tull.com. And, it's never been my favorite Jethro Tull record. This period is a little bit spotty for me and their material, but it'll be interesting to see what they do with the material, what kind of extra bonuses and cool things that they bring out, and if the new mix kind of gives it new life as well from Bruce Soord. I love Bruce Soord. It sounds like there's going to be stereo and surround sound remixes as well as Dolby Atmos. The opener Spiral is available. I'll put it in the Prog singles list. I still have to kind of assemble that after I film this, but I'll put that in the mix for sure, so you can check that out if you want to go to the description and check on the YouTube playlist of my Prog singles list. So it's going to be available as a limited 3 CD plus Blu-ray set, including the original mixes on CD1, the 2026 remixes on CD2, as well as the third disc of bonus material, including 6 completely unreleased studio tracks and 3 live recordings taken from the band's tour in 2000. The Blu-ray features Dolby Atmos, 5.1 surround sound, and 24-bit stereo mixes of the main album, as well as 24-bit stereo mixes of the bonus material, excluding the live tracks. The package is completed by extensive liner notes by Martin Webb and archival photo material across 36 pages. So, and this will be the first time this album is available on vinyl as well. So there's going to be a vinyl edition. And so if you're interested in the kind of revisiting some of these albums from the catalog, this should be a cool release. And speaking of that, something I'm super excited about, this news is a little bit older, but Gentle Giant is releasing In a Glass House, a remixed and remastered reissue version. This is their 1973 studio album, their 5th studio album, one of my personal favorites. Everyone who watches this channel knows I'm a huge Gentle Giant fan. The new version has been remixed and remastered by Grammy Award-winning producer Eber Pinheiro, alongside the band's own Derek Schulman. And it's been kind of interesting because this one, they didn't have like the original master tapes, I suppose. Like Steven Wilson's been doing a lot of the new mixes for these classic Gentle Giant albums. But this one was kind of missing because they didn't have the master tapes to work with. But it seems like with new AI technology or whatever, they're able to do what they need to be able to remix and remaster this album. I don't know all the technical aspects of how that works, but I imagine, kind of being able to separate out the stems and things of the music is what AI is capable of doing to create a really incredible mix of the album. I've heard a lot of good things about the mix, and they've released a video of the Way of Life to give a taste for it, and it sounds absolutely amazing. So this is a classic prog record that everyone needs in their collection, I think. It says the Dolby Atmos and surround mixes really allow the listener to step inside the music. It's incredibly rewarding to hear the album take on a new life while still staying completely true to what we created in 1973. So that's really exciting. The new reissue will be available on limited edition 180-gram heavyweight clear vinyl, as well as 180-gram black vinyl as a CD, and a deluxe CD Blu-ray edition featuring stereo, 5.1 surround, and Dolby Atmos mixes. And I'm always torn on these releases on what to order, what to buy, because I'm a fan of vinyl, but I'm also a fan of CD and digital recordings and things like that. And I'm always very curious about the Dolby Atmos surround mixes. I really enjoy listening to those. So I went for the CD Blu-ray edition for this particular release, but maybe down the line I also pick up the vinyl version. But I already have a version of the record on vinyl, so we'll see if I feel like I need the updated version as well on vinyl. Next, I want to talk about Big Big Train and a couple of news items from them. First of all, they're going to be playing Woodcut in full on their upcoming tour. They released their album Woodcut earlier this year, their 16th studio album, the band's first true concept album. And so it seems that they're going to be doing some tour dates throughout the UK, and they're playing in several different areas, September through October. They're playing on the Cruise to the Edge next year. And it sounds like they're focusing on Woodcut as a complete piece, which is what I was hoping for. But, cool to get that confirmation that they're going to be performing this excellent album in its entirety as it's meant to be performed. So that should be fun to check them out for. They also have released a new book, Time and Tide, The Songs of Big Big Train by Andrew Wild and R. Douglas Helvering of The Daily Doug, being published September 11th, 2026. So it's just going to be a catalog of the different songs from throughout Big Big Train's history, through exclusive interviews with past and present members, rare archival material, and illuminating musical analysis. Authors Andrew Wild and R. Douglas Helvering uncover the origins and meaning behind each of the band's songs, from tales of steam locomotives, lost rivers, and ancient landscapes to reflections on love, identity, mortality, and belonging. So that should be cool if you're a fan of these books that kind of detail the history of these songs and the meaning behind them. That should be a really cool thing to get for big Train fans. I'm sure I'll get a copy of it at some point. I also want to talk about Haken. They've released a second single, Bleeding Sky. This comes off of their first single that they released. Trying to remember the name of it here. Oh, In a Fever Dream was the name of the other track. I'm surprised that they came out with these two singles so close together. That was only like 2 or 3 weeks ago that they came out with In a Fever Dream. They haven't announced yet news on the album release, like what the album's called, the release date, all that kind of stuff. So that's still waiting. But this is another really cool single. It seems like they're going in more of a darker, kind of more alternative direction with this. Some people comparing it to bands like Sleep Token and such. So that'll be interesting to see that kind of edge to their sound, this kind of darker, atmospheric, moodier style, but it still has the signature Haken style as well in the mix. They're a 4-piece now with Ross Jennings, Richard Henshaw, Pete Jones, and Ray Hearn. And they're going to be returning to the stage on the 27th of September to headline Euroblast Festival in Germany. They're also announced for Cruise to the Edge next year, so they've got a lot going on. This track itself, Bleeding Sky, they recruited Adam Nolly Get Good Periphery to play bass on it. Seems like they're having a lot of different people play bass since they don't have a full-time bassist now in the band. So that's going to be interesting to see what news comes out of their new record. I'm always excited about Haken and always wanting to see what they're up to. So the other thing that I noticed that came out in the last couple weeks is Voyage 35 shared their version of Porcupine Tree's Even Less. Voyage 35 is the Porcupine Tree inspired project led by former bassist Colin Edwin and longtime live guitarist John Wesley. and Even Less is from Porcupine Tree's 1999 album Stupid Dream. This is the second kind of single that we've seen from this group after the Nostalgia Factory came out. And it's a really cool version of Even Less, one of my favorite Porcupine Tree songs, and interesting to see their interpretation of it. So I think this is a really solid track, and I really have been enjoying it. So should be interesting to see what they do ahead. They're also on the cruise next year, so we'll see what kind of material they bring to the stage then. They're doing some tour dates in September. It looks like a short tour of Italy, Germany, and the Netherlands, and the UK. And so I'm interested to see what they do as this kind of Porcupine Tree band that's trying to bring back the older classic Porcupine Tree material. So that should be a lot of fun. So that's really the main news items that I had from the last couple weeks. As for the channel itself, I did a couple of really cool videos this week that I want to point your attention towards. One was my May review roundup, where I did my top 10 favorite albums from the month of May. I think that was a really solid video, some great music recommendations. I thought there was some excellent albums being released, so definitely check that out if you haven't seen it yet. I also did a review of the new Yes album, Aurora. That was a really fantastic time to talk about it. It pleasantly surprised me, and I think if you have an open mind and are okay with the current iteration of the band, that you should find a lot to enjoy with it. As for what's coming up ahead, I'm considering a couple reviews. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to have the time to do those in the near future, but definitely there's some really worthy albums that are worth it. I'll probably be doing a June album review roundup at some point in early July, and then starting my top 40 favorite albums of all time series in July as well. So June might be a little bit quiet as I'm preparing a lot of these shows and what I'm going to be doing in the future. But things should really ramp up once we get into July and I'm talking about this stuff. I've also been really liking and listening to a lot of classic music, trying to beef up my background knowledge of rock in general, really. And I'm considering doing a series of just me listening for the first time to these kind of classic rock albums, or revisiting these classic rock albums. And I was kind of considering, would it be interesting for me to give my thoughts on the channel as I listen through some of these older albums, like do a weekly kind of what I've been listening to type episode where I talk about some of the classic records that I've been listening to lately. So I'm considering some kind of show like that to bring some of the older classics into the discussion here, but I'm not quite sure. Let me know if you've made it this far in the video, if that's something you'd be interested in seeing on the channel, me talking about classic records. For example, this week I've made a playlist. I watched Sea of Tranquility, and they did an episode of like their top 20 favorite albums each, these three panelists, and so I put that all together in a playlist, and I'm just going through the albums like alphabetically. So on the first week, this week, during my commutes to work, I've been listening to it, and let me tell you what the lineup was this week, because this might be interesting to some of you out there. For example, this week I listened to Pete Townshend's All the Best Cowboys Have Chinese Eyes. Then I listened to Pink Floyd's Animals. Then I listened to Bad Motorfinger by Soundgarden, and finished out the week with Beat by King Crimson. So kind of a fascinating lineup of very different albums. I thought it was a cool, eclectic kind of collection of records, and I had something to enjoy for each of those. You know, of course I knew Pink Floyd's Animals like super well. That's one of my favorites. But the other three I hadn't heard in depth really. You know, maybe I've heard songs from them in the past and whatnot, but this was like a first deep dive listen. So I thought it'd be fun, like do a show where I talk about those four albums, how they compare, where I might rank them, something like that. That's kind of something that's percolating in my head. So thank you guys for joining me in this episode. I know at the end here I kind of just rambled and ranted, but hopefully you guys enjoy that stuff as well. So thank you guys. Let me know any news items I missed, any new releases from the last couple weeks that you want to point out and point my attention towards. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you guys, and I'll catch you in a future episode. Bye everybody, enjoy the music.